Today on Shop Talk, Kydex. Stick around. Hey guys, welcome back to Shop Talk. If you don't know, Shop Talk is where I go around my shop and talk a little bit about what it takes to be a knife maker, some of the things that I have to do on a daily basis to get your product out. Today we're going to talk about Kydex. If you're not familiar with Kydex, you absolutely should be. This is what I make your knife sheaths in. Also, holster makers do use a lot of Kydex as well. Kydex comes in a lot of different colors, different sizes. All right, this is purple Cryptek, I believe. This is multicam. All right, I also have, all right, Old Glory right there. All right, so what it does is it allows you to enhance your product, but also what it does is it makes the knife safe. All right, so you need a knife sheath. If you just carry a knife without a sheath, odds are you're probably going to wind up cutting through your gear or cutting yourself. Typically, knife sheaths in the past have always been made of leather. The problem with leather is that it will get destroyed in the weather. It'll loosen up. Yes, there are leather products that are preservatives and they do look nice and they do look traditional, but after a certain amount of years being out in the element, it will get weakened over time, especially if you keep it submerged in water. It will mold, and that mold will also rust your knife, so that's not as good either. So what Kydex does is it is impervious to the weather except for heat. All right, as long as you are not in a hot environment, it will maintain its form. I think you can get these pretty cold too. I wouldn't go sub-degree temperatures, but it can get pretty cold and still maintain its form. And the good thing about this is if it ever loosens up, you could heat it up again and repress it. All right, that's what's good about Kydex. It comes in different thicknesses, so depending on what you're making, this typically is in a 080 is what most sheath makers, knife makers, or holster makers will use. You can also go thinner, which is a 0.060. That's a lot thinner than this. And also, if you want to go thicker, and I've also done this, you can go 0.125. All right, those sizes are very thick, but again, depending on what you're trying to make. But typically, it's 0.080 for this. Another important thing to remember is that also if you want to add accessories such as clips and stuff, you're going to need your bolts or your Chicago screws, all right, washer screws, washers, that kind of thing. I also have them in different size. Buy them in bulk. Buy them in bulk. You're definitely going to need to do that. All right, these are the typical size. I think these are an 1/8. These are a 1/4. And then I also have, I think, 3/8 in there. All right, buy them in bulk. Go to Knife Kits. That's where I buy all my stuff. Pretty important. As you can see here, I'm starting to work on a project. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put all this stuff together. All right, guys, I only know of 2 ways that you can actually press Kydex onto a form. It's either the vacuum table, where it is an underneath vacuum that you heat up your Kydex and suck the plastic on top of the mold or the form, or you use a press. All right, this press is handmade. As you can see, it's just some plywood, some foam that I got from Knife Kits as well. You got to heat up your foam, and some door hinges. That's all I have. And then what I use to clamp it shut is just a bunch of big C clamps. All right, that's all I'm using. Now they make these, they sell them. I think I have one here. This is a smaller version. All right, that's all metal. All right, so if you want to use the metal one, you can. This one's a little bit smaller. So depending on the size that you have of the product that you're trying to make, is going to determine how big your press needs to be. I always like to go bigger, because you press a smaller piece of form, then it's not really a big deal to have a bigger one. So I always try to go bigger. Now, what I got to do is I got to make sure I prep the knife. All right, so my knife is in here. All right, so this is the 1/7. All right, I just have a lot of oil on there so it doesn't look all pretty, but this needs a knife sheath. So I'm just going to clean it up a little bit, and then I have to prep it. The way I prep it is I use blue masking tape. You could use any tape that doesn't stick to the metal. Do understand that it will leave a little bit of residue, so you're going to have to do a lot of cleanup, but blue masking tape seems to work for me. Alright guys, so this is what it should look like. Alright, a little bit prepped. Alright, so I got my knife, I got a couple layers of blue masking tape on there. That's going to give me a little bit space, so when I go to pull my knife out, it's not too tight. Again, the longer the blade, the thicker it should be, because sometimes the Kydex warps a little bit and it might get stuck at some points. So if you have that little bit of wiggle room, it actually helps out quite a bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to measure how much Kydex I need. I kind of just eyeball it. I know there's always somebody on the internet saying you should measure and this and that. And listen, if you're making a lot of these, then you kind of eyeball it. If you're making one and you only have one piece of Kydex, then yeah, you should probably be a little bit more stingy. But for myself, I kind of know whereabouts I want the handle to fall. I want to know how much Kydex I need on each side. So I just take a 1 foot by 2 foot piece of Kydex, cut it, snap it, and just use what I need. Alright guys, as you see here, this is a hot plate. Alright, I would recommend definitely getting some gloves if you're going to start to deal with Kydex or anything that's going to be of temperature. You kind of want to heat it up around 375, 380. I also use a little Simply Green just to clean off the top. Alright, there's going to be some debris and things that want to stick to it. You don't want to get it too hot to where it melts the Kydex, but you want to get it warm enough to where it starts loosening it up. Now, if you haven't been told this before, with these pads also should be warm. All right, they also should be hot. So I just throw the pads on there. Again, this is molding form, and they're form press pads. They come in a 1 foot by 2 foot. I just cut the edges, and yeah, you can see where some of it got a little burnt, and that's because I left it on there for too long. But ideally what you want to do is just warm the pads up, especially the part that's going to press. You don't want to put hot Kydex in a cold pad. All right, you're not going to get enough definition as you want. Alright guys, so there you have it. Alright, this is the sheet that I made. It does come with a fire steel because that's what the customer wanted. It also has a large tech lock. If you look at the sheath itself, it is a long sheath, about 12, 14 inches. All right, so it's not easy. I did add holes right here. I did add a couple of grommets right here, see-through grommets. So if you wanted to latch this to a pack, and as you can also see, there is a number of holes or see-through grommets right here that if you wanted to latch to a pack or some tactical gear, you could. It does have a nice lanyard, comes out really, really nice. And again, just an idea of what it looks like. What I like to do is give the customer options. So if the customer wants, you know, as you can see, it's pretty stout, it's not coming out. It does have a little bit of play, but I wanted that because sometimes debris and water and stuff gets in here, especially if you're using it outside. I wanted the sheath to be usable. So for machete sheaths, you want them a little bit looser. Not too loose, but a little bit looser. And I think this has a nice snap to it. All right, so if you hear it, all right, locks in place. Really nice. All right, so these are available. This is the 1/7. I did put a nice lanyard on there. These are available. This is the 1/7 if you guys are interested. D2 steel, 1/4 inch thick. It's a stout blade. If you want one of these are great, fantastic camp knives. 17 inches overall. Really, really stout blade, as you can see there. Does have some finger jimping on the back. But again, this was about Kydex Sheaths. Has a little drip hole right here. All right, so I drilled the drip hole in. So if water gets in there, all right, it'll have a place to drain. All right. All right, guys, so I hope you appreciated Shop Talk. All right, Shop Talk is a series that I'm doing. If you guys are interested in it, please like, subscribe, share, add all those stuff below. If you want to watch videos like this before anybody else, please become a Patreon member. It only costs you $1 a month. If you're interested in a knife, please go to threeriverblades.com. Thank you very much, guys, and as always, keep grinding.